Every story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
A very good evening to you and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News. I am Nena Oragwa. And our top stories tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. And our first story tonight, the Nigerian Army says it is presently conducting operations in the Sambisa forest to finally clear the area of insurgents. Addressing journalists, the Chief of Defense Staff General Abayomi Olonishakin said the major clearance operation is already 5 days gone with remarkable success. Olonishakin, who is meeting with the Chief of Army Staff as well as the Chief of Air Staff, the Military Command and Control Center, also discloses that they were praising the level of troops' performance in the operation with a view to re-strategize. He said despite some issues being encountered by the troops, the momentum of the operation will be sustained. The CDS, however, reaffirmed the Army's determination to wipe out insurgents from the Sambisa forest and within Nigeria's territories. The Nigerian Navy says it has intercepted 2 Cotonou boats with 10 crew members carrying 195 metric tons of suspected illegally refined automotive gas oil. Addressing journalists at the base's headquarters in Warri, Delta State, the commanding officer of the Nigerian Navy ship Delta NNS Delta, Commodore Raimi Mohammed, restated the position of the Central Naval Command to rid the maritime environment of oil, vandals, kidnapping and other nefarious activities. However, debunked allegations of a joint task force ban on the use of 200 horsepower engine boats by individuals. The NNS Delta also arrested a suspected kidnapper at the Ndoro camp in Bayelsa State. Over 800,000 persons have applied for the 10,000 job offers advertised by the Police Service Commission, PSC. The head press and public relations of the PSC, Kechuku Ane, in Abuja today notes that as at 1 p.m. today, the Commission had received 843,008 applications for enlistment in the Nigerian Police Force. Of the lot, 243,327 applications for assistant superintendents of police cadre. He asked that there were 197,990 applicants for the inspector cadre, while 401,691 applicants put in for the police constable cadres, respectively. The Police Service Commission said it would recruit 500 cadre ASP, 500 cadre inspectors, 1,500 specialist officers and 7,500 constables and a recruitment of 10,000 police personnel. The exercise closes on May 13. Residents of Jakonde Estate in the Solo area of Lagos State are standing up to what they believe is outright neglect of their community on account of epileptic power supply for the past 5 years. Plans by the community to stage a peaceful protest today was also stalled by the police. Our correspondent Victoria Solomon has more in this report.
For over 5 years, residents of Jakonde Estate at Isolo area of Lagos have been without constant supply of electricity, with most of them expressing displeasure at the exorbitant bills handed them by the Ikeja distribution company at the end of each month.
The past 5 years is off and on. We only have it just 10 minutes at times in the midnight. And they always bring the bills to us. whether they call it crazy bill or whatever. And we are paying them.
They have been giving us bills, and then most pathetic of it is the fact that, we keep getting bills as though we are using the light. And in fact, it has even increased. It has increased, and so it's so distressing.
Business activities in the community has also been paralyzed as most shops are closed because of the epileptic supply of power.
People have been, complaining about how the power issue has been in the estate. Everybody is happy, both businesses, homes, and even mosques. We get to operate on generator, usage, which is very bad.
Traders expressed their pain over what they believe is an unfair treatment.
I've been here for over 30 years. We need this. Some of the transformers here are old. Like this one is over 30 years. It was brought in 1984. That one you are seeing there. So the pleasant nature is causing while the moment there is light, there was always a breakdown.
That issue is very annoying. It's getting out of hand. As you can see, there's no light, no market. Our government know what to do. They should do and help us. So, me, I dey vex. If I see any NEPA around this place, I go carry that ladder for them.
Yet another community battling with epileptic power. How long will residents of Isolo, Jakonde Estate, continue in this state? A call has, however, gone to the federal government to find a lasting solution to the power outage in the country. Victoria Solomon, CoreTV News, Lagos.
The bid for the proposed increase in the minimum wage has been generating reactions from Nigerians. The flagship program called Digest, analysts x-ray the feasibility and the workability of the proposed minimum wage by the two factions of the Nigerian Labour Congress. Our correspondent has more.
Mixed reactions have continued to greet the increased minimum wage proposed by the two factions of the Nigerian Labour Congress. In our flagship program called Digest, analysts examine how realistic the proposed minimum wage will be.
But to ask for increase makes sense.
Okay.
It's just the number. We've got to be reasonable about, what we're asking for. But rather than just asking for the number, we need to concentrate our effort into what are we doing?
I do believe, that's why I stand firmly with organized labor to push even for far higher than 90,000, because our governors must begin to sit down and think deeply.
The question remains, where lies the plight of the Nigerian workers when the country is facing many economic challenges?
Tell it to yourself. What are you doing to be the better Nigeria? That, okay, it's no longer business as usual. You're being patient. All our excesses, we need to curb it and then look in other directions on how we can make things better.
Government can come up and say, look, based on our realities, this is not affordable. And Labour has not shut the door on negotiation. Labour has made a proposal with demand 56,000 naira. It is for government, and that's why a lot of people were taken aback when the Minister for Labour did not say anything.
Callers also share their views.
The new minimum wage will not solve our problem. As I'm talking to you, I need to put on gem before I could watch this program. And at the end of the month, I have another DN bill to pay. That is double payment.
Whatever amount that is being proposed is not unrealistic. But the truth about it is that we have to reorder our priorities.
It is the expectations of the Nigerian workers that the present administration will adopt policies that will be favorable to them.
We now move on to Bayelsa State, where the state government has planned an emergency meeting with the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress to discuss the welfare of workers. In a statement by its Chief Press Secretary, Daniel Iworiso Maxon, Governor Seriake Dixon says the meeting would hold on May 6, 2016. He said the proposed meeting is part of the government's effort to foster the existing relationship between the government and labour movement in the state. The chairman of the NLC in the state, Ndiomo John Bipri, confirmed the proposed meeting but insisted the labour unions stood by the 21-day ultimatum handed to the government to pay all outstanding salaries to the entire workers and pensioners of the state government. Labour Party Edo State Chapter has thrown its weight behind the Nigerian Labour Congress NLC and the Trade Union Congress TUC for their call to the federal and state government to increase workers' minimum wage to 56,000 naira. In a press statement issued by its Secretary, Comrade Fred Akere, and the Chairman, Comrade Sam Omokaro, the party congratulates NLC, TUC, the organized labor, and all working people in Edo State on the 2016 May Day celebration. The party officials said the working class at the moment is passing through harrowing experiences occasioned by inflation, poverty, unemployment, inadequate health care facilities, flooding and erosion, pointing out the need for the increase in salary. Edo State chapter of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has described the increment of the minimum wage in the state as a Greek gift and something that was coming late. The party says Governor Shomole's action is hasty and a betrayal of trust, as it was done at the time the national leadership, Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, was negotiating a 56,000 naira minimum wage for civil servants. The state chairman of the party, Dan Orby, notes that the real challenge in the state civil service is about recruiting people into the service and not about deceiving the people with unrealistic wage increase. He challenges the governor to pay outstanding salary arrears, pensions, and all the entitlement of workers rather than talk about 25,000 naira minimum wage. Governor Shomole had, during the Workers' Day celebration, announced a minimum wage increase for government workers from 18,000 naira to 25,000 naira. Civil servants in Taraba State have continued to bear their minds and demands for improved welfare in the discharge of their duties. The workers who spoke to our correspondent in Jalingo, the Taraba State capital, called for increase in salary and improved work environment. Our correspondent, Udwak Godwin, has more in this report.
Workers in Taraba marked their day with march past, representing their different union. The celebration was, however, halted by mild drama as one member of the Nigerian Legion fainted out of what may be exhaustion.
Because you cannot expect somebody that has spent 35 years serving the government, or he has reached the age of 60, whereby he has become old man, and he could not be able to get his benefit in time, and then you will expect him to live well.
The workers outlined their challenges, especially on salary problems, giving a 3 weeks deadline for solution to be proffered by the state government.
Ensure that every infrastructure is put in place in all our tertiary institutions to allow accreditations.
The discrepancies being experienced in workers' salaries since October 2015. 2. Non-implementation of promotions and incremental dates.
The state government is, however, optimistic that there will be a better and improved working relationship with the workers.
The government has approved that my office and the labor officials have been working together, and I assure you that all outstanding omissions and the payment, when sought out, will be paid.
The theme for this year's celebration is Working Class, the Quest for Social Economic Revival. Udwa Godwin, CoreTV News, Jalingo.
You're still watching CoreTV Primetime News. Coming up after this break, President Buhari in closed-door meeting with Roman Catholic bishops. Bring you details of this and more stories after this break. Just stay with us.
With over 7 billion of world population and still counting, the world needs to hear you now than ever. Whatever your ministry or vision is, Gospel Africa will help get you there faster than you think possible. For inquiries and participation, contact 009 503 3859 or 0812 076 0011 or visit www.gospelafricang.com.
Gospel Africa, your #1 media solutions for the church today.
Gospel Africa, showing on this station at this time.
You know, Angela, that's a very difficult question.
It is difficult to respond to that question.
Angela, that's a great question.
Great question, Angela.
Angela, that is a very great question. That's a great question, Angela.
Okay, that's a great question. Yeah, very good question.
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
That's an interesting question.
This is an interesting question you pose.
60 Minutes with Angela. Again, answers to every question you always wanted to ask.
Glad to have you back at still CoreTV Primetime News. A quick recap of our top stories. For these top stories and more of our news stories, join us on our social media platforms, facebook.com/CoreTV News, on Twitter at CoreTV News NG, and on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoreTV Live Space News. President Muhammadu Buhari is currently in a closed-door meeting with some Roman Catholic bishops at Presidential Villa. The meeting, which started at some past 9 p.m., is holding at the conference room of the wife of the president's wing of the State House. About 16 bishops were in attendance when the meeting started. The bishops at the meeting include Archbishop of Jos Ignatius Canada, Archbishop of Abuja John Onayeko, and Bishop of Diocese of Sokoto Hassan Matthew Kuka. Although the agenda of the meeting was not disclosed, it may not be unconnected with escalating herdsmen attacks and other challenges facing the country. As Nigerian workers joined their counterparts across the world to celebrate May Day, gloom, frustration, bitterness, anger, lamentation, and despair not enough to describe their mood, as not more than 10 states have fully paid workers' salaries and allowances up to date. Nigerian Labour Congress is nonetheless commending the federal government's effort in the fight against insurgency, especially in the northeastern parts of the country. Kaduna State correspondent has the details of the story.
The Kaduna State Chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress says the state government does not regard workers as anything, as the El Rufai administration never engaged the NLC or TUC in its activities. The state NLC chairman calls on the state government to pay the workers and pensioners their 7 months arrears and to rescind its decision to retrench workers, as the action would negatively affect about 7,000 workers and thousands of their dependents.
Actually, we are employees of the government, but certainly government also has a right for them to call us and intimate us on issues and matters that affect welfare of workers, so that we will know in time what government means.
The chairman of the Trade Union Congress, Kaduna State Council, on the spot says there is need for the Kaduna State government to create jobs for its teeming youths, calling on Governor Nasiru El Rufai to ensure close monitoring of government projects and activities.
It is also needful for the government to commit resources to the enhancement of social infrastructure, human capital development, and job creation to boost the economy. The country is bleeding, and there is no pretense about that.
Also, lending his voice on how workers can be motivated, the chairman of the Nigerian Union of Teachers pleads with the Kaduna State governor to pay the outstanding salaries of workers, as they have no other means of taking care of their families apart from their monthly salary. It is the expectation of the workers that their demands will be considered and equally granted, despite the present challenges being faced in Nigeria.
The enforcement teams of the Federal Inland Revenue Service have sealed off the business premises of 10 companies that defaulted in remitting the taxes to the federal government. In a statement issued today, the state coordinator of the FIRS in Rivers, Edo and Delta states, Joel Onowakbo Thomas, said the clampdown is in line with the directive of the FIRS management to ensure zero tolerance for tax defaulters. Joel Onowakbo said FIRS is determined to utilize all available options to recover all liabilities from all defaulting taxpayers, adding that FIRS would not hesitate to effect the arrest of the chief executive officers and directors of the defaulting organizations. Experts are calling on youth and entrepreneurs to employ active business plans while urging them to join the train of many who, through business endeavors, seek the key to Nigeria's economic and financial growth. At a gathering in Lagos, panelists highlight different aspects of business development. Our correspondent, Akin Obake, has more in this report.
The quest to establish a business and be in full control of time and resources is a regular phenomenon in every part of the world. However, so many businesses have not stood the test of time beyond their first 5 years after. At a gathering in Lagos, prospective entrepreneurs are being urged not to be hasty in becoming business owners, but strive to first and foremost acquire the right skills.
But I would like to say that you should go into an entrepreneurial journey just simply because they hear that this is what is making money, right? Do something that you're super passionate about because you're going to go through very tough times.
One secret to starting a business, whether it's in IT or in the road sector, is to ensure that, and that's secret both for SMEs and big businesses, to ensure that you're able to create a convenience.
You develop a set of skills that are really critical. So you build competence, and those are the skill sets that also help you later on in life to really fulfill on what you are called out to be.
In preparation to start a business, certain risk factors are important for consideration.
For you to start, you always need to have a worst case scenario. What if this doesn't happen? I remember, like I said, when we started in 2008, we had a scenario whereby this business was going to fail. And so we were scared that it would fail, and that's the truth.
Many of the businesses that entrepreneurs have founded, they don't have the capacity to build on scale on those businesses, and those businesses therefore cannot be sustainable. So you have a company like ExxonMobil that is maybe 100 and something years.
But I think the first is someone that is passionate about what they want to do, passionate about actually achieving results, and then determined to succeed in what they want to do. Because what you find sometimes is that you actually join an organization in a particular role, your role may change 10 times within the organization.
With the federal government poised to set up several business empowerment schemes for Nigerian youths, prospective entrepreneurs have the task of carrying out proper and adequate research on whichever businesses they intend venturing into. Akin Obake, CoreTV News, Lagos.
The Commissioner for Housing and Urban Development in Plateau State, Sam Galadima, has bemoaned the lack of revenue drive in the state. He expressed dissatisfaction in his efforts and Jos while setting up a committee that is to pursue a vigorous revenue drive under his ministry. Our Plateau State correspondent brings us details of the story.
According to the Plateau State Commissioner for Housing and Urban Development, the need for internally generated revenue cannot be overemphasized due to the fall in revenue from the Federation accounts to the state. The Commissioner appeals to civil servants in Plateau State who make up the Revenue Collection Committee to make judicious use of the opportunities to generate revenue for the state.
I had wanted, without forming this committee, to initiate what Tinubu did in Lagos, bring in consultants to look into it. But I said no. We ourselves, we can do it.
The chairman of the Revenue Collection Committee and permanent secretary of the ministry, who spoke on behalf of others, promised the team would put in their best in raising revenue for the state, adding that it will be their joy to see that the state generates enough revenue to cater for its civil servants.
We promise you that we will do this job with all our hearts and our mind and our strength and bring in the best for the state.
Despite the large revenue potentials in Plateau State, which is a land of many tourist attractions, the government still depends on dole-outs from the federal government to pay its workers, whom it presently owes 4 months' salary arrears.
The Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, has deployed 2 police helicopters for the search of former Minister of State for Education, Iyabo Anishulowo, who was kidnapped by some armed men in Ogun State. The statement issued today, the Ogun State Police Public Relations Officer Muyiwa Dejobi says the choppers have been patrolling suspected kidnappers' hideouts within the state with search parties. The Ogun State Police Command has, however, offered a reward of 5 million naira to anyone with useful information that could lead to the rescue of the abducted Senator Iyabo Anishulowo. The state police commander assures everyone that the kidnapped former senator will soon be rescued and hurt, and the culprits are apprehended. The Ogun State Governor Ibikunle Amosu and the Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Zone 2, Bala Hassan, had earlier assured Nigerians and residents of Ogun State of the safe rescue of Senator Yabo Anishulowo. Coming up after the break, ceasefire around Damascus and opposition strongholds in Syria unable to stop fierce fighting in Aleppo. Bringing details of this and more stories in foreign and sports after this break. To stay with us.
Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digit 360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.
Glad to have you back. On the foreign scene, Egyptian police has stormed the press syndicate in Cairo and arrested 2 journalists critical of the government. Scores of people have been arrested in Cairo and other places over the past 2 weeks during protests as well as from their homes and in cafes. The Committee to Protect Journalists says Egypt is second only to China as the world's worst jail of journalists, holding at least 23 journalists in jail. The Interior Ministry, however, says it did not raid the syndicate or use any kind of force in arresting the 2 journalists who handed themselves in as soon as they were told there was an arrest warrant. United States Secretary of State John Kerry has called for an extension of the ceasefire in Syria to Aleppo province after 10 days of fierce vermin that has killed hundreds of people there. Kerry arrived in Geneva in an effort to salvage stumbling peace talks called for a countrywide cessation of hostilities. Russian officials say they were calling on the Syrian government to include Aleppo in a temporary truce already in place in Latakia and around the capital, Damascus. The UN Secretary Council resolution has also called for a full countrywide cessation and demanded that all of the country should be accessible to humanitarian assistance. At least 253 civilians, including 49 children, have died in shelling, rocket fire and airstrikes in Aleppo since the surge in fighting. Still on Syria, bombardment of northern city of Aleppo shows no sign of ending even as the Syrian military extends a unilateral ceasefire around Damascus and opposition strongholds, the capital's eastern suburbs, for another 48 hours. Today's announcement of the truce extension comes as a humanitarian convoy delivered aid to 12,000 families trapped in a government-besieged area in central Syria. The Aleppo fighting threatens to wreck the first peace talks in Geneva involving the rival parties, which are due to resume at an unspecified date after breaking up in April when the opposition delegation walked out in anger. About 350,000 to 400,000 people are believed to remain in rebel-held parts of what was once a city of 2 million. Meanwhile, in the Swiss city of Geneva, John Kerry, the U.S. Secretary of State, says several proposals are being discussed in a bid to find a way to restore at least a partial truce in Syria. Thousands of workers in Venezuela will receive a pay rise of 30% as the country's socialist government works towards improving its deteriorating economy. The President Nicolas Maduro made his announcement in a televised address. Sunday's introduction of the minimum wage is aimed at calming tensions caused by runaway inflation and food shortages. Nicolas Maduro's government has been rocked by protests in response to the crisis and demands from the country's opposition to stand down. The government, which models itself on the left-wing ideology of its late leader Hugo Chavez, still has significant support among the country's poor. The first United States cruise ship in nearly 40 years to set sail for Cuba has docked in Havana with more than 700 passengers on board. The arrival of the Donia today marks the restart of commercial travel between the U.S. and the island states after 5 decades of hostile relationships brought on by the Cold War. The ship is the first U.S. cruise ship in Havana since President Jimmy Carter eliminated virtually all restrictions of U.S. travel to Cuba in the late 1970s. Travel limits were restored after Carter left office, and U.S. cruises to Cuba only became possible again after Presidents Barack Obama and Raul Castro declared detente in December 2014. South Korea and Iran are expected to sign several trade deals worth billions of dollars and discuss sensitive subjects like North Korea, following President Park Geun-hye's arrival in Tehran with a large group of business leaders. Iran's official state news agency said more than 230 business executives accompanied Park, who along with several ministers met Iran's President Hassan Rouhani today and held meetings with Iranian officials. Park asked for Iran's help in implementing UN Security Council resolutions calling for the nuclear disarmament of the Korean Peninsula. Iran has been seeking to integrate into the global financial system and improve ties with other countries since its own nuclear-related sanctions were lifted in January and a landmark deal with world powers. We now move on to
power style, and that's what he delivered.
Sports journalists in Nigeria have charged the Minister of Sports, Solomon Dalung, to call Chris Group to order so as to put a stop to the lingering crisis bedeviling the administration of football in Nigeria. In an 8-point communique, the association advised all stakeholders in the sports industry to steer clear of personal aggrandizement and allow for the development of sports ministry. The sports writers also charged the Nigeria Olympic Committee to ensure proper and adequate preparation for Team Nigeria's successful participation at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games to avoid a repeat of the 2012 disastrous participation in London. Leicester City has made history winning the Premier League title in what is considered the greatest sporting stories of all time. The victory follows Tottenham's 2-2 draw at Chelsea today. Leicester started the campaign as 5,000 to 1 outsiders for the title after near relegation last season. However, the team have lost just 3 league games in what has been described as a fairy tale and the most unlikely triumph in the history of team sports. Leicester's closest challengers, Spurs, Arsenal, Manchester City, Manchester United, and last year's champions Chelsea, all failed to match the Foxes' consistency across the season. Leicester midfielder Danny Drinkwater has been cleared of further action following the sending off against Manchester United. He will therefore serve a 1-match suspension after being booked twice at Old Trafford. The 26-year-old will miss Saturday's home game against Everton. Drinkwater reacted angrily and appeared to swear at referee Michael Oliver after picking up the second yellow card for a foul on Memphis Depay in the 1-1 draw. And finally, homeboy Aruna Quadri and other contestants are gearing up ahead this year's International Table Tennis Federation Premier Lotto Nigeria Open, which serves there from May 18 to May 22. European champions Portugal will lead 15 other countries across the globe to the event, which holds at the Molade Okoya Thomas Hall of Sterling Balogun Stadium in Lagos. Represented by 7 players made up of 5 male and 2 female, including women's singles defending champion, 22-year-old Jenny Chao. Portugal will campaign against top players from Russia, Hungary, Egypt, Finland, Slovakia, Romania, Iran, Mexico, Ghana, Congo, Brazzaville, Morocco, Tunisia, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Cameroon. Competition manager Mohamed Dal Latli has described as encouraging the number of participants compared to the 81 contestants from 11 countries who participated in 2015. Nigeria's duo of Edem Ofyong and Olufunke Oshonaike will help to defeat 2-time winner of the ITTF World Tour and Hungary's most successful table tennis star Zandra Pegel. And that's it on CoreTV Prime Time. But before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. Thank you very much for staying with us tonight. I am Nina Oragwa. Do have a beautiful night rest.